art is a weapon. When I read that, I was like, oh, wow, yeah.
About the street scene.
You know, graffiti is energy. It's fucking energy.
It really represents life because, like, from the darkness comes the light.
Out in the street, all they're getting is some hard-tied feet.
Why do people fuck? Why do people eat? I mean, come on, why do people piss? Because it's just, it's like instinctual. It's inside of you, it comes out.
Every day they go to school.
Become so numb to all the images that you're assaulted with that it takes potentially something absurd to make you question the rest of what you're being confronted with.
We're not asking for the space, we're taking the space.
Talking about
graffiti just transcends all boundaries. You know, you have kids from every type, every walk of life, every ethnicity, every economic background.
To give him a plan. Heads turn slowly wherever he goes. He's a man and he damn well knows.
This is the biggest art movement our world has ever seen. Bigger than the Renaissance, bigger than any of this stuff because of the sheer numbers alone.
The great fallacy is that it was born in New York. It was born in Philadelphia. I usually use cornbread as a jumping off point.
I was the world's first graffiti artist.
I started here in Philadelphia and went to Europe, Japan, Africa, you name it, it's there. And all roads leads back to me. This right here used to be a wall, the electric company. This is the very first wall I wrote on. I got the name of reform school because I insisted that the cooks would bake some cornbread as opposed to the white bread that we're eating every day. And every day I would go back to my harassment about cooking the cornbread, and every day with a green by my shoulder, get your ass. And the name cornbread had a ring to it. I got the name on the back of my shirt and I started writing it all over the halls of the juvenile institution.
Everybody talked about my name all over the jail. So I figured if they talk about my name all over the jail, they would talk about my name all over the street. And that's exactly what happened. The more they talked, the more I wrote. The more they talked, the more I wrote.
As he did this, his name seemed to grow and grow and grow, and he just became a household name, more or less.
In 1971, a friend of mine named Cornelius Hosey got killed. And we called him Corn, short for Cornelius. The newspapers thought the corn was short for cornbread. And they erroneously announced my death in the newspapers.
So I know what to do. I'll snatch everybody's attention. So I went to the Philadelphia Zoo. I wrote on the concession stands. I wrote on the wall where the monkeys at, where the lions is at, on the park benches.
I wrote cornbread lives on both sides of the elephant. I got locked up for that.
New York is rapidly becoming known as the graffiti capital of the country, a title Philadelphia has held for years. The numbers you see after the names refer to the youngster's street or building or school in an otherwise huge and anonymous city.
One of the things that really set it off was an article that appeared in the New York Times in July 1971 that was about Taki 183. And he's seen as the Africa Bambaataa of graffiti.
I'd always be on the train or the buses or just walking.
Yo, this dude is from 183rd Street, and he's killing it all over. How come I see this dude in the Bronx, in Staten Island, in Queens?
Taki was a messenger. So in his job, he had to go all over Manhattan. And he wrote Taki 183 wherever he went.
I was hitting the East Side a lot, where a lot of people worked on newspapers or magazines. And I guess I'm the guy that made it popular, because I hit at the right place at the right time.
There was already a writing movement, but the article overnight amped it up.
Well, the city back then was like trash. I mean, when you went into the Bronx, it looked like, man, you was walking into World War II. Like Germany, when it was getting hit.
They actually let the Bronx die.
I grew up in the Bronx. We had no parks to play in. We played on the sidewalk, skelsies, run, catch, and kiss, tag. We used to run around, throw 40-ounce bottles at each other.
The city was in such ugly condition, and they're not doing nothing. I'll give you something to do.
ruthless. Right. Get up. Bomb. That's why they say bomb the system.
You do away with all the things that you're subjected to in everyday life, and to go on route, it's like just say, fuck everything else. I'm going to do my thing.
To really reach out, say, look, I'm here.
I exist.
This is me. Hello, world. I'm fucking here.
You put a pen in any child's hand, naturally they'll go to the wall. Graffiti writing started at the birth of human consciousness.
Human culture has been identifying themselves on walls and in places forever.
What they put on the cave walls, telling a story, that's what graffiti is. It tells a story too.
Alexander the Great writing on the top of Egyptian pyramids. Very, very early instances of people traveling to locations and leaving their marks behind.
I think when the Romans and the Crusaders and all these different cats in history, it was less of an art form, a developing, living thing. It was more just like Tony was here, Anticus was here.
You can go through history and pick out example after example of people stating who they are, where they were.
This is where my graffiti career started. Back in 1972 is where I copped my first King 13 tags with little El Marco marker. And I got to that store over there, right here, man. I must have been about that high. And I was writing my name right here. When all of a sudden, from behind me, I get one of these. And I turn around, and there's these three motherfuckers right here. All outlaw and shit, man, And they made me the offer I couldn't refuse. Join the gang or get my ass stomped and shit, man. So I said, fuck it, let me join the gang. They was hitting trains, and they taught me how to get inside the trains, and we go in there from 116th, go downtown, hit them, or go up to 125th and hit the trains. Back in 1977, I was here with a couple of my boys, when all of a sudden from behind us, a whole bunch of gang motherfuckers showed up. Some guy just came up, and he came to put a gun on me and say, yo, I'm telling you, flip your colors or you're gonna die. We wasn't about to flip colors. And we said, nah, fuck that shit. I remember grabbing the gun like that and coming up like that, and he shot me. Took out my gun, I got him in his knee, exploding like. I was arrested. I was locked up for gang-related violence and shit. My father didn't come to see me, and none of my boys from the gang came to see me. None of them. My brother showed up one day, man, with construction paper and some buffalo markers. And that's when I became T-Kid.
We didn't call ourselves graffiti writers. Society called us that. We call ourselves bombers. We were in the military. The military ain't got nothing to do with what you guys think. We don't care about you. We're into killing. Burning.
It's on now, motherfucker. Lock and load.
Bombing is just all-out destruction. Just going out, just like bombing, like dropping a bomb.
This is the point from which I can never retreat, because if I turn back now, there can never be.
If you go to the very essence of the graffiti movement, it's all about the signature and the tag.
But that grew to something bigger. Somebody grabbed the can and said, hey, this is cool, but this is better.
This is how we do a throw up. I'm gonna show all you New Jack motherfuckers out there. First you do your outline, then you fill it in. Using a fat cap, which spreads real quick, as you can see. Now I'm outlining my throw up. It'll take me up to a minute or two. Boom. And that's it, baby, it's a wrap.
And then somebody say, right, but this is better than all of that.
Pieces are just, your name done in elaborate letters, whether it's simple style pieces or wild style pieces. You got 2-color blends, you got either shadow or 3D, you add some designs, maybe a cloud, a trim.
So the whole art form is based upon lettering. You know how he took jazz and they broke it from its classical form and flipped it and started adding bebop to it in different forms. And we did the same thing with letters. We took the basic alphabet and stretched it. We took a P, as you see here, and elongated it here, and added extensions here, and just added funk to it, like we do to everything.
You don't want to lose the basis of the letter, but you want to lose the letter.
It's taking your name, your identity, and like exaggerating it. P-O-S-E-T-W-O, opposed to.
Wild style really isn't a style of letters, it's a way of life. Okay, let's get that straight right now, yo. And I gotta give a shout out to Tracy 168, the president of the Wild Style crew all the way back in the 70s.
So I was wild. Don't tell me how to live unless you're ready to die for me. But style, class, I respect you, respect me. So wild style combined as one word became what I live like, who I am. It couldn't be me doing it by myself. It took everybody to believe in a certain way of living.
And we reflected it in our graffiti, in our letters, and that's how we expressed it. That was wild style. We go up, yo, let's go to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge. Let's do a piece right there. That's wild style. Doesn't matter if the letters are all nasty or, you know, flowing with style. No, no, no. It's my name is up on Brooklyn Bridge. You ain't fucking doing that, my man. That's wild style.
We took a tag, and then I thought I'd never see it again. Maybe in the afternoon, we were on the way back, and I look on the train. I see my name on the train again. I went, whoa. I thought there was endless amount of trains. I couldn't believe I saw my name again, and I got a rush. There was a tag next to it saying something. I went something like, what's up? And they went, hey, what's going on? From Brooklyn. Wow, this is the greatest thing.
Artwork come to you moving around on wheels. That's just the way I look at it. A museum on wheels. Where you gonna get that? Only in New York City.
This was my very first choo-choo train that I painted at barely 16 years old. Once I saw that name go by on a live train, people going in and getting out, I just had to continue doing it. My mom was, of course, horrified that I was running around sneaking out of the house at night. There was no stopping me. I would jump out the bedroom window and go painting with my friends, and I'd sneak back in the house, and my mom would slap the hell out of me. Hate it when a hand comes out of the dark and just beats you up. You're not even expecting it. You're sneaking in. Whoosh. The more they told me, you're a girl, you can't paint graffiti, you can't go to subways because you're a girl, you're a mere female. I had to stand up and just shut them up. It's not a game. It involves hooking up with someone that knows particular train yard or layup, knows the schedules, knows when it's the appropriate time to go in, how long should you be there, knows the escape routes. You've got to be able to run and carry a heavy bag of paint and climb a huge fence and wall. You go in there almost like a small military mission.
Writers are street soldiers. We go on missions because that's what we do. We plan out, we're calculated, we have strategy, we look at the maps. We do our homework. We're not fighting your war, we're fighting our own war.
Going for a thrill ride, an adventure with your friends at night. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Someone could get hurt. Hope you get home in the morning. Maybe you'll wake up in jail. That's excitement.
Back in '89, they officially cleaned the last train.
The city got smart. They recognized that graffiti writers like fame. Take the fame away, and you have no graffiti.
Here's the deal. You write it, I clean it. You write it, I clean it, you write it, I will never let it leave the yard. Eventually, you're gonna say, the hell with that. Ain't gonna let it roll, nobody will get to see it, and that's what they did. All the writers said, F it, hell with that.
I wasn't ready to stop writing graffiti just because trains weren't bombed anymore, so, you know, most of that energy was just focused elsewhere. You know, the graffiti might not have continued on the subways, but, you know, it was survived on the streets.
My name's Fucking Revs, F-U-C-K-I-N, R-E-V-S, and I'm a writer, graffiti writer. I'm not really into people too much. Some people go to a job and they say, I'm a people person. Well, I wouldn't say that. I got my dog, he's my partner, you know, and that's all I need, you know what I mean? About 1980, 1981 is when I got into punk rock, graffiti. I never looked back since, and I don't give a damn about hardly nothing in this world. I mean, if you're gonna tell me you're gonna die 2 seconds from now, I said good. My old man, he was a millwright. My grandfather was an iron worker, union iron worker. My uncle's a union iron worker. I'm an iron worker. We're just basically blue collar, just working jackasses, you know what I mean? And I never wanted to become this. This is something I've hated. when I was a kid, because I used to see my father lace up his boots and get out of the house at 5:30 in the morning. That's why I wrote graffiti. That's why I was into hardcore. I was just like, I don't want to be like him. You know, and turns out I became almost just like him, you know what I mean? And it throws my head off because I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? Since I fought so hard against everything, you know? I started posting up bills. And then at the same time, I seen Cost post bills. I called them up, and we had the same exact philosophy. It was just like, fuck everything, fuck everybody. Let's just take over and shove it down their motherfucking throats, man. And that's what we did. We just went ass wild on the city. And by '95, I guess the city just had enough of us. The CEO got bagged. He got, 5 years probation. He got 3,000 hours community service. He got fined, and that's when I went underground. The subway tunnels were the most beautiful element around, because there's nothing like being in a subway tunnel. It's one of the more dangerous places, but it's one of the most peaceful and safe places at the same time. I would just prime out a big-ass section of wall, and I'd just write shit, you know, stories that happened. You know, my goal was to do every single subway tunnel in the system. I think I was like maybe 35 short, and I would have got all the way if I wasn't stopped. I ran into the police, basically.
Ever since the early 70s, politicians, lawmakers never really knew what to do with kids that were writing and never really quite figured out a healthy way to deal with it. So they decided to criminalize it.
Don't do it!
The subway system is the lifeblood of the city. People weren't riding the subway, they were leaving the subway in droves. Most people said 40, 50, and 60% of the crime in the city occurred in the subway. Why do people feel it's so bad? Well, look at the graffiti. Now, there's not to suggest that the graffiti caused the crime, but the graffiti gave the impression, at best, that no one was in control of the system.
Well, the broken windows theory is expressed in a metaphor. Just as a broken window left untended is a sign that nobody cares and leads to more damage, more broken windows, so disorderly behavior and conditions left untended is a sign that nobody cares and leads to fear of crime, more serious crime, and urban decay.
Graffiti is a gateway crime. It's a gateway for children to get into a life of crime. It's the first crime they commit, and once they start getting away with it, they say, hey, this isn't so bad, and move on to bigger crime.
If somebody's gonna do a crime, they're gonna do it regardless of the fact, you know what I'm saying? What about white-collar crime? Does graffiti lead to white-collar crime?
At the end, you're only just vandalizing, you know? You're putting your name on the wall with spray paint. There's a lot of other shit they could be out there doing, you know? More severe crimes going on. I've been upstate twice for more serious crimes, you know? And that's why I said before, if it wasn't for Graff, who knows where I'd be. I'd probably be locked up upstate again for something else, you know?
You know, Vandal Squad wants all of us, and like I said before, Vandal Squad can still suck my dick. You know, this is for you guys.
They love us. They love us, because they'd rather chase us than to chase a drug dealer who's going to turn around and take a shot at them, you know?
Yeah. We're just writing our names on the walls, man.
You have made the choice that you want to continue to hurt our community, and our community needs to send you a message, and that's jail time.
They're being paid to go out and chase 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, and on some occasions, 25, 30-year-old men. That job is the other end of my stick.
They gotta catch me first. I've been chased 3 times this year, and I'm fucking running circles around them.
Another criminal chased.
It's probably the only crime where a person actually signs their name to it.
You can now put a tag into a police computer, find out if someone has been arrested anywhere in the city using that tag, using warrants to take these vandals' computers, because these guys, you know, they're doing it for notoriety.
You start modifying behavior by the application of the law, you know, you start to improve the overall quality of life.
Whose quality of life? My quality of life? 42nd Street, all the streets nice and perfect, man. All right, you come up to where I live, the Bronx, fucking potholes everywhere you go. My front end of my car is all fucking jacked up. You know, where is this quality of life taking place?
You can't get fresher than this.
I don't see why a clean building is a better quality of life than something with art on it.
Graffiti is such an indemnable part of New York. You can't really think of a neighborhood or even like a street without it.
People believe that they live in a kind of neutral public space. What they don't realize is that what's neutral to them, what's a neutral, comfortable public space to them, may actually be excluding a lot of people.
Everything's getting gentrified. All these fucking hipsters and yuppies are moving in here and they're just taking over the city. The city is just boring. There's really nothing for kids to do anymore except go out and fucking destroy shit, get drunk, and it's bad.
There's no New Yorkers in New York no more.
There are no freaking New Yorkers in New York City. Well, at least in Manhattan. It's just becoming this like Disneyland, cookie cutter, boring playland for the rich. And it's disgusting.
If you want to really talk about the issues that are messy, classrooms, family structure, those things you can't cosmetically just, sandblast off a wall. Those are things that are much harder to legislate around and much harder to get people to understand. And it's much easier to point to someone and be, these thugs, give me your votes, I'll make them go away. We'll fix the broken glass and then your crime goes away. It's a load of shit.
Je m'appelle Blake Laura, je suis artiste graffitiste. J'ai commencé au début des années 80, 81 exactement. La première fois que je suis descendu dans la rue, j'ai voulu faire une pieces américain. Tu vois, j'ai voulu graffiter comme ce que j'avais vu à New York. En faisant le Pieces, je me suis dit non, il ne faut pas que je fasse ça. C'est pas possible parce que dans l'environnement parisien, dans l'architecture, ça ne ressemble pas à l'Amérique. Mes premiers graffitis, c'était des rats et je les faisais courir le long des murs parce que le rat est le seul animal libre dans la ville. Mon but, c'était de couvrir Paris de rats. Et ce château a été construit vers le Xe siècle et est complètement abandonné depuis à peu près 50 ans. J'aime beaucoup travailler sur la mémoire des lieux. Chaque lieu dans le monde garde la trace de ce qui s'est passé avant. Et quand j'arrive dans un lieu, je ressens profondément ce qui s'est passé autrefois. Tu vois, comme si j'avais un rapport avec le surnaturel, tu vois, avec le passé, les choses. Le premier pochoir qui a été fait au monde, c'est la main dans les cavernes des premiers hommes. Ils mélangeaient de la peinture, des pigments avec de l'eau, qu'ils mettaient dans leur bouche et Est-ce que ça vous dérange si je colle une affiche ici? Dans ma jeunesse, il n'y avait presque pas de sans-abri. Hein? Aujourd'hui, il y a énormément de sans-abri. Je travaille sur la misère, le paupérisme en France, directement à Paris. L'art doit servir à une cause, à mon avis. L'art doit... Pas une cause de militantisme politique, mais des causes sociales.
Entre 84 et 90, ça a été une explosion sur Paris, le graffiti. C'est-à-dire qu'à la rigueur, les gens n'ont pas compris ce qui leur arrivait. On venait tous de banlieue pour déchirer Paris. On nous a abandonnés dans les cités, on nous a menti depuis qu'on est tout petit. Et on s'est foutu de notre gueule, quoi.
Il y a une mentalité ici, ancienne, française, qui n'a pas bougé. On nous juge toujours mal. Que ce soit dans le boulot, que ce soit dans notre apparence, notre style vestimentaire.
C'est un pays raciste, voilà. Ici, on voit que des Arabes et des Noirs dans les cités. Et si vous allez à Paris, on verra que des Français, tout.
C'est un ras-le-bol et un vrai ras-le-bol.
Le graffiti, c'est un moyen de s'exprimer. Et les jeunes, ils n'ont pas souvent la parole ici. Ils n'ont pas ce qu'on a.
Jamais la parole. Ouais. Je tag donc je suis.
Voilà, je tag donc je suis.
With every name belongs a person. The M, the I, C, K, E, and the Y. And it's Mickey. I developed as a writer from a young girl, just scribbling names. And basically, you can only develop by doing it and not talking too much about it, but just paint, 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 write, write, write. All my artwork is about eyeballs, eyeballs, eyeballs. It's watching the world. Same thing as these aliens, they also watch. But I think the eyes are watching in a more serious way. They're kind of like checking things out, if everything's okay or not. I teach first and second grade of primary school in Holland. And I always try to keep it separate, because I thought nobody should know that I do graffiti. But now I don't give a damn about it anymore.
Lange dag of is het een korte dag? Korte dag!
The little ones, they are so pure. And it's something that I see a lot of grown-up people have lost, their urge to play. Like doing graffiti is like playing.
Holland is always known for its great graphic design, and that's a tradition that's got to be shown in the graffiti art you make, because graphic design is such a highly developed Dutch product. Look at this money, it's so beautiful, it's so abstract, and that's not money, that's artwork. The graffiti money. Dutch graffiti is really about typography. A lot of crews are only into designing letters and fonts and really strange shapes, and they're not really into painting photorealistic murals.
This building is 28 meters high. It was the highest graffiti in the world, so we also entered the Guinness Book of World Records. It makes no sense to fight against illegal graffiti with the police. You came up with some more smart ideas, and this is, I think, a really smart idea to show the kids that maybe you can start tagging a little bit, but after a while, after maybe half a year, you have to think about, okay, in which direction I want to go. Maybe do some jobs or do some canvases to think if maybe graffiti can be their future.
For me, it's not art. If you reject society, you have to reject the way this society judge when it's art and when it's not art.
Graffiti painters are being taken up by jet setters and gallery owners and trendies. Subway riders are transferring their talents to canvas and setting prices from $200 to $2,000.
But when you're trying to replicate what naturally goes on a wall, I don't think it looks right when it's put into a gallery on a canvas.
If you repeat the same aesthetic, it doesn't work. It looks very stupid and flat.
Looks a bit cheesy, it's a bit kitsch.
The graffiti on canvases, that's the end of graffiti.
To me, people who do art want to become somebody. They want to have their slide scene, they want to have gallery shows, then they want to get paid for it. You're not getting paid for it. Somebody's going to paint over it. You might get a punch in the face from somebody you've gone over. It's just more bad things are going to come your way when you do graffiti.
Going out and doing street work is so fucking powerful. You know, and then trying to kind of take that and put that in a room somewhere and invite people to come and drink wine and look at it, you know, it becomes kind of farcical, really, you know.
For some of the images, the way they work, it's a shock to see them on the side of a bank or whatever, you know. A lot of the work, you know, does lose its power and its potency when it's just not illegal. As I really sort of started to become, as I think of it, a graffiti artist when I was in Iraq. And it just really picked up from there, and it's something I carried on back through into Palestine and then back to England when I came back. And now I just can't stop it.
If I'm recognised, then eventually the police will take me for criminal damage. And for any artist who's prolific, that can mean a long time in jail.
We've got Operation Big Picture mapped
take pictures of it, keep a log of where they are, how long they've been there for, covert observation. We want to put the fear on taggers and people who are responsible for this illegal activity. They should be looking over their shoulder, like, who's looking at me? If I'm about to do this tag, are the police and the council going to jump out?
I'm told that we're one of the most camered up cities in Europe.
Perched upon the 16th floor, you have a bird's eye view of what's going on below, especially if you can see it through the lens of a camera in your own home. Subscribers to a new TV service called Digital Bridge can now eavesdrop on what's happening down there.
The thing that confuses me about surveillance cameras is you have what's supposed to be an obviously public space, but the surveillance camera like immediately privatizes that public space. So I can't figure out where the public space is anymore. Isn't the public space all of this stuff? I mean, isn't this where we're supposed to be allowed to express ourselves? Kind of what we had to do was make our work invisible, in a sense, to the authorities. And the things that are invisible to the authorities are the things that the authorities install. We become invisible to install invisible work. And in that way, we're able to work at any time of day around any official. I mean, we can do it right in front of the Vandal Squad and they wouldn't know what we were doing. When working with a street object and you keep it in its context, it opens the floodgates for the kind of expression you can do.
Und wenn man einmal sagt, in dieser Gesellschaft besitzen die Sprayer ein Sonderrecht, nämlich dass sie sich um Gesetze nicht zu scheren brauchen, dann ist das auch ein Anschlag auf den Rechtsstaat. Als Strafe kann für die illegale Sprüherei zukommen eine Geldstrafe und bis hin zu einer Gefängnisstrafe 2 bis 3 Jahre.
What can I say, you know? I mean, the law is the law.
Weil ich einfach Lust darauf habe und weil mich Deutschland ankotzt und weil die momentane soziale Lage hier einfach voll für den Arsch ist, Hartz IV. Und keine Ahnung, Deutschland nervt mich einfach, weil alle beschissen drauf sind und jeder jeden hasst.
Und mal CBK, das steht für mich, für meine Achsen, für meine Familie. Und das lebe ich zurzeit.
Für mich ist es einfach eine Ehre. Das sind die heiligen 3 Buchstaben, die mir mit 12 Jahren in die Wiege gelegt wurden, mit denen ich einfach bis an mein Lebensende gehen werde, weil es eine Verpflichtung fürs Leben ist, ein Bund fürs Herz, für immer und für meine Freunde. Man steht für die ganze Gruppe ein.
La situación de estar ahí en la cárcel sin tener una culpa como la mía, que era por pintar, una culpa fuerte, puede destruirte, ¿no? Como persona y te puede destruir la vida. Y la tuya y la de los familiares y tu alrededor.
Nos conocemos ya de Sevilla, pero empezamos a pintar hace un año. Y fue un flechazo.
No, la gente se cree que somos una persona solo y somos dos. También nos ayuda mucho a conocernos cuando pintamos, ¿no? Si estamos vacíos, si estamos faltos de amor, de cariño. Pues la pintura dice mucho, ¿no? Yo, como te he dicho antes, es mi psicólogo.
Yo me considero como pintor y que pinto en la calle. Porque hay que ir a un museo para ver arte o...
Que a lo mejor no es accesible para cualquiera. Mejor aire libre, ¿no? La luna, el sol, ¿no? La vida. Porque no le da alegría a los colores eso de ahí, el rojo, amarillo, no le da igual.
El que feu vosaltres aquí és importar les façanes, les portes...
Tienen una casa y la dejan abandonada, entonces le damos color para los vecinos.
Pero
color, vida, alegría.
Mira lo que te voy a decir. Mi casa no es abandonada.
A su casa no, pero esto sí.
Pero te viene, te pinta toda la puerta.
Son los niños, los niños.
Bueno, los niños y tíos con de yo, ¿eh?
También.
Ya sabes.
Y yo le cojo la lengua y le hago sacar todo con la lengua. ¿Comprendes?
No, está bien, sí.
Siempre la gente se queja de los tags y todo esto, pero hay que entender que un chaval o una mujer cuando empieza a hacer graffiti no puede empezar haciendo ya grandes murales artísticos. Tiene que empezar por la expresión mínima, por el principio de todo, el tag.
Enfrente de mi casa hay mucho, pero yo digo, yo os doy permiso para que pintéis toda esta pared. Que antes estaba toda la fachada muy mal. Y empezaron a pintar, la pintaron así, y le da vida al callejonete. Le da vida, está más bonita.
La libertad que tuvimos o tenemos los artistas de aquí puede ser que haya hecho que nuestro grafiti sea más diferente, ¿no? Porque hemos tenido bastantes zonas donde podríamos pintar a diestro y siniestro y todo eso ha hecho que hayamos pintado más que en otras ciudades. Hola, me llamo Sixear, pertenezco a la ciudad de Barcelona y luego al planeta Tierra. Y empecé pintando cuando tenía 15, 16 años. Empecé bombardeando, haciendo tags.
Empecé a pintar letras y pintaba pez. Un carácter no se podría transmitir más que una simple letra.
Ya me he aburrido de poner mi nombre y saber qué es eso, que en la calle puedes decir más cosas, ¿no? Que, joder, la calle es una cosa pública y está para decir algo, ¿no?
Y te das cuenta que es absurdo, ¿no? Estar en cada esquina de las calles. Así que es una evolución, no te puedes quedar ahí atrapado, ¿no?
Me gusta implicarme con ella, que haya una unión con ella. Entonces, empiezan a coger y rascar y transmitirle una fuerza y una violencia. Es algo muy pasivo que te acepta todo lo que le des.
Lo que me interesa es que cuando mi trabajo es observado por gente de fuera del graffiti puedan llegar a percibir algo que no sea un lenguaje totalmente codificado, que solo entienda la gente de graffiti. Me interesa que llegue a otros públicos también.
Hasta hace 5 años se podía pintar con total tranquilidad, pasaba la policía y no te decían nada. Estaba más permitido y ahora están cambiando las leyes. Aquí hace muchos años había una pared muy larga, como de 2 kilómetros, todo lleno de grafitis. Y era como toda la zona industrial, que la gente venía aquí a pintar, como veis por aquí, y lo permitían, tal grandes muros.
Muchas de las zonas que teníamos antes las han tirado abajo como zonas industriales o paredes del centro que se podían pintar y de esta manera lo único que pienso que van a conseguir que la gente bombardee más y haga lo que a ellos menos les gusta.
I'm Pike and that's...
Yeah, now we paint a lot together, but we come from totally different ends of painting in a way, you know. I'm more for the fucking shit up part and he's more like this. So we meet in the middle, and it's a fresh combination. You're totally free, you're just doing it, you go on instinct. You should try to paint this way. It really feels good, you know. It can also look beautiful.
Actually, it's quite a beautiful crime, as they used to say, or still says.
There's a saying in Afrikaans, it goes net harse en dwarse skryf hulle name op mure en glase, which means only fools and idiots write their names on walls and glasses. During the 80s, graffiti was seen as a political tool for guerrilla warfare. Only in the early 90s we started doing our names. We never thought that writing your name was the aim of graffiti. We were doing stop the violence. That's what we did all the time. Peace, free Mandela. If you were caught for doing graffiti, it would be seen as a political crime. You could be detained without trial or any hearing or no, they didn't have to notify your parents, nothing, indefinitely.
It could just as easily and perhaps much better be described as a policy of good neighborliness.
So-called colored people back in the 80s were influenced by hip-hop most, as opposed to blacks, whites, any other race in South Africa.
Colored being myself, because I know a lot of people can't comprehend that you get blacks, coloreds and whites.
Colored people do not have a lot of culture to draw on. Being caught in the middle of a race war sort of, you're not black, you're not white, makes you long for something bigger, something to hold on to. And we adopted the whole culture, the art aspect of it, the music aspect of it, knowledge of soul.
This whole area is District 6. During apartheid they did a forced land removal act, which was a law that was passed which kind of certain areas were zoned for demolition and they just wiped out like whole communities. It was areas where people were living together. They segregated all the areas into black, white, colored basically. I think these poles were put up, someone was going to build and then the government stopped them. Yeah, we're just kind of making them a bit more interesting.
This is considered a township where black people live. Graffiti is a luxury sport, you know, and people coming from this background, this environment, it's the last thing on their mind. Being artists is like a fantasy. Do we buy something for school that we really need, books, whatever the case, or do we buy a spray can? Graffiti isn't an expression, it's me, it's my life, you know? It made me more mentally aware, it made me socially aware, it made me just politically aware.
In hindsight, you look back and go, what we're doing actually did make a difference, and it wasn't just about writing a name, it actually was like helping towards something, because it gave them individual status and made them part of something bigger, it made them belong, you know? And made them feel that they are personally worth belonging to something.
Seeing someone doesn't understand graffiti, but what he sees on the wall kind of changes him, or the way he thinks, or influences him in a certain way, in a positive way.
Have you seen this kind of painting before?
No, I'm not. No.
What do you think?
I like it. It's very beautiful.
You like the painting?
Yes.
Cape Town has got some skills, South Africa's got some skills. Vandalize, baby.
Cidade maravilhosa, cidade maravilhosa, cidade.
Toda vez que a gente sai pra pintar, a gente sai com medo. São Paulo, não medo. Tava com tremendo. São Paulo é uma cidade que não tem ordem.
A loucura, a buzina.
Não tem comparação com nenhuma cidade.
É o país perfeito com as pessoas erradas, sabe?
Os únicos lugares no mundo, assim, que a coisa ainda é cru.
Tá começando agora.
Assim.
Como aconteceu em Nova York nos anos 70, aqui nós estamos passando pela mesma coisa, só que com estilo totalmente original brasileiro.
O quanto a cidade está rápida, como um dragão, como uma grande máquina que vai devorando tudo.
As coisas estarem massificadas e tudo uma cópia cultural dos Estados Unidos ou da Europa.
Tá à mercê do que o poder está fazendo, do que o povo quer fazer, do que os estrangeiros querem fazer com a cidade. Enfim, qualquer um faz o que
É um país onde você não vive, na real, você sobrevive. Até hoje você vê o que está acontecendo na Amazônia.
Eu acho que tem bastante a ver até com os canibais que eu faço. E muitas vezes copiar uma cultura, mas você canibalizar ela, sabe?
Gêmeos de São Paulo, do bairro do Cambuci. A gente faz grafite e também faz um trabalho para a galeria de arte. Quando a gente pinta é tudo uma coisa só. Não dá nem para explicar, assim. Sei lá, eu posso estar na Indonésia fazendo um trampo, ele tá aqui na Bahia pintando outro, a gente tá pintando gêmeos. Naquela época a gente não só queria ser mais um da cultura hip hop. Foi vendo que não era a nossa praia. Não era a nossa realidade ficar pintando isso.
A gente começou a buscar uma coisa mais interior, mais brasileira.
Nossos personagens dentro desse caos, dessa cidade, acho que é uma mistura de tudo que a gente vê, ouve, sente, todo dia, 24 horas. Opa! Tudo bom? Bem? Me dê um toque pro pessoal lá que a gente tá fazendo o trabalho aí. Só refazendo, né?
O que seria aí? Trabalho de quem?
Oi? Não, trabalho nosso, mas tudo artista. Tudo artista.
Tem alguma autorização na prefeitura?
A gente tinha, porque a gente tinha feito um trabalho antes aqui, né? Ali é um animal, né? É mais pra aquela coisa de preservação da natureza, essas coisas. Né? Mas, São Paulo é uma cidade que tem muitas outras coisas pra polícia se preocupar, eu acho. É muita merda rolando, assim, muita. Muita. Então, grafite é só isso, assim, ó, na cidade.
Sou a Nina, de São Paulo, aqui do Brasil. Eu tava numa rua, uma vez no centro da cidade, eu pintei duas meninas, carinhas de neném, assim, que nem no meu estilo tem, só que nuas, e elas tinham seios e tinham um corpo parecido com de criança, mas eram como se fossem mulheres. E um cara criticou, falou, por que você tá pintando isso? Não sei o quê, começou a me criticar meu trabalho. Eu falei, agora olha aquelas adolescentes do outro lado da rua, que eram prostitutas. Por que meu trabalho é agressivo e elas não são? Sabe, qual que é mais agressivo? Em outras partes do mundo nem tanto, mas eu acho que no Brasil a criança é deixada de lado. Nenhuma escola leva uma criança para uma galeria para ver uma exposição, ou leva para um teatro, ou para ver uma música, uma dança. Eu que resolvi começar a fazer coisas para ela, pegar dela e levar para ela.
Atenção, Brasil! Atenção, Brasil!
São Paulo tem muito mendigo. A única coisa que o mendigo sabe é o nome dele, assim. Sim, o nome é o que você tem, assim. A primeira coisa que você tem é seu nome, assim. Então é por isso que você tem que defendê-lo, assim. O estilo americano era muito forte no mundo todo, assim. A época que o style era uma coisa que predominava no estilo de letra, assim. E eu nunca gostei muito porque eram muito enroladas as letras e não dava pra ler, assim. Eu sempre me preocupei com fazer sempre as letras separadas. Para mim, assim, o que diferencia o grafite de São Paulo do grafite do resto do mundo é essa característica de ter pichação.
Existe nas letras, né? Algumas letras, se criou de fazer letra. Cresceu aqui, nasceu aqui, é daqui, assim.
tem a ver com a arquitetura do local, tem a ver com o que a gente passa na cidade, que é, tipo, é difícil de sobreviver. Puta, isso aqui, assim, sabe? Tipo, São Paulo é bem isso, é uma coisa reta com um pouco de movimento em cima, assim. Tipo, você vê pela arquitetura, assim, os prédios são sempre bem compridos. A vertical deles são bem altas e, tipo, em cima, normalmente, ou ele dá uma mudada, assim.
Ele faz essas coisas pra quê? Pra prejudicar. Aí vai deixar tudo riscado, tudo escrito do jeito deles. Só eles que vão entender o que está escrito ali. Então, é feio isso aí, não dá. Aí...
Mas se o cara pichar, pinta de novo.
Pinta de outra vez, beleza, eu adoro fazer.
Feio é propaganda política nos muros, certo? Feio é esses outdoor, ridículo é quem tem dinheiro por um outdoor com o cara da cueca gigante. Feio pra mim esses cartazes ridículos de vender no show, entendeu? O pichador não vende nada. O pichador só mostra que ele existe. Só isso. Beleza? Mais uma coisa rolando, né? Está no fim do mundo aqui, ó, no fim do mapa da Zona Sul. Se classificar o Brasil como o terceiro mundo, aqui é o quinto mundo, cara. E aqui pertence a São Paulo, né? Pertence à América, que pertence ao planeta Terra, que pertence a uma parte de coisa que eu não sei explicar mais. Tá certo, eu sou escritor de rua, conhecido como pichador. Eu pratico intervenção urbana. A gente faz uma guerra, mas não é guerra com balas e metralhadoras, igual o Sr. Bush. A gente faz uma guerra escrita, com terrorismo tipográfico. É difícil ser pichador, gente. São Paulo não faz ser grafiteiro. E duas, além de você ter uma letra bonita, que o pessoal só chama por rolê que tem letra bonita. A gente tem letra bonita, tem que pichar bem, entendeu? Nos lugares altos, igual a gente, entendeu? Tem que pichar... Se quiser ser famoso é difícil, hein? Totalmente difícil. Quando eu vou pichar, eu escrevo o nome da minha gangue, Pigmeus, e ponho a minha assinatura, que é VAG. A nossa técnica de pichação é mais uma técnica de marketing. A gente prefere escolher os lugares mais difíceis de pichar. A sensação da pichação é a mesma coisa, a sensação de você escalar uma montanha, você chegar lá e ficar sozinho. Se tivesse grana, eu ia fazer rapel e escalar umas cachoeiras. Como eu não tenho grana, a gente escala prédio, mas as técnicas é tudo da raça, meu. Só que a diferença é que você tá só rico, você pode ser preso, você pode cair, sei lá, você pode acontecer várias coisas, não?
A gente está no lugar mais contaminado de São Paulo. Welcome to my gallery. Esse aqui em específico foi justamente numa fase muito depressiva da minha vida, que eu estava muito down e procurei, talvez, como eu estava na vibe muito ruim, eu procurei também o lugar ruim. Então eu comecei a pintar nos lugares mais sombrios. E dessa fase de depressão eu falei, meu, já que eu tô pra baixo, eu vou pra baixo, literalmente. E eu acho que o meu trabalho esteticamente, ele tem menos importância do que o conceito que ele tem. De grafite que eu criei com essa cor azul, que simboliza a vida pra mim, ele vai estar sempre aqui nesse lugar, assim, sempre com essa força, sempre com essa intuição de cura, de falar, meu, olha aqui, ó, a barata, o lixo, tal, tudo. Tá aqui a vida, tá aqui o contraste, porque eu não quero vir pisar na merda dos outros e nem ficar aqui dentro de um lugar tão claustrofóbico, fedorento. Independente de que ninguém veja, eu faço isso daqui porque é a minha vida. É aqui a minha terapia, é aqui que eu encontro a paz. Né? Uma vez eu caminhando por esse corredor e escutei barulho de cachorro. Falei, meu, será que tem cachorro aqui dentro? Eu andei mais, senti um cheiro de fogueira, de comida sendo preparada, quando me deparei, a mais ou menos 100 metros aqui mora uma família. Mas quando eu vi aqui dentro, num lugar desse, que barata, rato, o grande nível de bactéria, de doenças que tem aqui dentro, para mim me comoveu muito. Tereza! Ô Toninho! Toninho, meu querido. O Toninho é um amigo meu que mora aqui já há 4 anos e que tem um filho que está desaparecido faz 1 mês. Então eu também estou fazendo uma divulgação para ver se a gente encontra o filho dele, tá ligado?
Deixa de lá pra cá, então nós somos mais viver independente. Se falar que é seguro, eu estou mentindo. Assim, em termos de sujeira, a Valência que nós bem cuida bem disso aqui. Porque em termos de limpeza, não tem como, né, Zezão? Não tem como. Falar que eu estou numa maravilha aqui, eu estou mentindo. O trabalho do Zé, eu admiro muito ele, admiro. Pra mim, o Zé, sabe o quê? É um herói. É. Ó. Inteligente.
Isso é nóis, mano.
Cabeça. É. Batalhador que nem eu.
Graças a Deus.
Minha cabeça. Ele é um cara que vai de fundo a fundo. E acredita nele mesmo, nele.
Graças a Deus. Do meu trabalho, sei a importância que ele tem para a cidade, mas eu tenho muita consciência, sei a força que ele tem, sei o tamanho da força dele é tão grande que um dia eu vou conseguir, através do meu trabalho, tirar aquele pessoal que mora ali. E quando a gente fala rua, cidade, as pessoas têm que ter uma visão mais ampla, porque quando eu pinto na cidade hoje em dia isso aqui, eu não quero pintar mais na parede, hoje eu pinto no chão, eu faço um trabalho que sai do chão, que passa por um poste, sobe no orelhão, enfim. Hoje em dia eu acho que eu dou um presente para a cidade, justamente num lugar tão podre que é esse aqui, da cidade de São Paulo.
昔ガンガンやりだした時にちょっとなんかちょっと悩んでしまったことがあって、グラフィティのなんか善悪に対することでちょっと悩んでしまったことがあって、でちょっと知り合いの坊さんにそういう話をしたら、なんか自分の背中の後ろに自分を見てる目があると思え、それがなんか仏の目、それを通して客観的に見て、恥ずかしくないと思うことやったら何でもやれっていう話をしてもらって。
日本はやっぱ鎖国してた国だから、確かにこの国はすごいコントロールされてると思うけど、それに対しての反抗がないっつったら嘘になるし、ただこの国はすごいコントロールされてるけど、すごい隙間だらけで、実は。だからその隙間をすごい縫って、行くのが逆に楽しいみたいな。
もしグラフィティをやってなかったら、グラフィティに出会えなかったら、今頃はもうとっくに死んでるかな。20歳まではもうしっちゃかめっちゃかな暮らしをしてて、人として崩壊しててなんかやらなくちゃなみたいのがあって、それからずっと雑誌とかをこまめに見るようになって、で雑誌を見た時にそのグラフィティアートっていう特集があって、それを見た瞬間うわーって思って、これだって 結局その頃日本にはまだボミングっていう文化が定着してないし、ボミングっていう言葉すらなかった時代で、私はだからタギングとかの練習とかピースの練習って言って、普段からね恨みが多い警察署とかに書いて強そうな女性に見えると影響だと思うんだけど、がんになったり、子供を産んだりしてグラフィティができなかったりして、でなんかなんていうんだろう、精神的にグラグラしてた時があって、で自分の中の願望かもしれないかな、強くなりたいと。母親になってグラフィティにはものすごい影響を受けてて、っていうのは昔はすごいなんかほとんど 90% 以上がヘイトですよ、憎しみ、怒り。今はほとんど喜び、ポジティブなイメージが多いです。赤ちゃんだったり。
Oye la palabra, mira, mira. Oye al espanto, te está hablando, avisando, mano vamos, predicando, en las ciudades tocando, sonando, cantando.
Los Angeles, youngest giant of American cities. A city that began as a sleepy pueblo in 1781 and has grown into one of the largest and most spectacular communities in the world. In the shadow of the City Hall is Alvarez Street, birthplace of Los Angeles.
In the 1920s, down in Alvarez Street, the shoeshine boys, they would take their dabbers and put their name on the corner to make that corner their own. The zoot suit era came in the early 40s. And that's when the first placas using the Old English and writing the roll calls first happened. Everybody's name all rolled up. Old English was used in the most prestigious places. It was the most important places, military induction for Vietnam. It would be our graduation certificates. It would be in the headline of the Los Angeles Times. It was an announcement of who we were and how many strong and which streets that we controlled. And this was the border and this is our culture. And then around the 50s with the spray can, then the placas throughout the whole neighborhoods exploded.
Bandana blanca, marca paz, bandana negra, marca guerra, paz, ves aves en la tierra, pero no donde cualquiera, guerra entre zonas, 3 puntos, vida loca, 2, 3, y 8 tocan 4, 5, 6 personas.
Right, most people, when they think of Los Angeles, most people in the Western world, they say, ooh, Hollywood. And then they, meanwhile, thinking that you're superficial. And of course that's true, but what they don't know about us is that we're deeply superficial.
So I think LA is a little bit more like artsy, you know, but you know, it's still pretty gangster here.
Abro mis manos, ahora camina.
Hi, my name is Tribe, and I'm a graffiti artist, and DJ Lady Tribe is my DJ name. Sometimes I model, and then I've done an album. I'm more into having nice cars and a lowrider, and you know, being around real G's. Next to my brother Tumor, he's the king of the crew. I'm like the queen of TKO, which is dope because I got some control over the crew. Like, I don't like some bitch or somebody in the crew, they get the boot. If something goes down, shh, you better watch out. I'll fuck your ass up. If someone fucks with me, they're fucking with my whole crew. That represents LA lifestyle right there, you know? And that's the kind of, you know, crew TKOs, they got heart. I honestly don't have to go bombing anymore to prove myself. I've proven myself. Climbing on billboards, getting chased by cops 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, running into bums, getting chased by gangsters. Graffiti took me to places I never would have thought I would be. Like, I ain't scared of shit. You know, when you're riding on a freeway and you're like, damn, I want that spot right there. You go and get it. You don't give a fuck about the cops, about going to jail. You don't think of anything else. You just go and do it. There's people out there still bombing, which I give mad props to, but because of my situation, of like, you know, getting deported and all that bullshit. Like, I'd rather not. I'd rather do legal spots and DJ. That's why I got into DJing, so I could stay out of jail. This is something you do not do. Do not write on somebody's house. This stupid idiot wrote on my house, thinking he was hitting up for the crew. The motherfucker got fucked up.
When I started with the symbol, it was about more of my identity with the Chicano movement that was happening, with the movement with Cesar Chavez. I wanted to make a political art statement about who I was in my own neighborhood. And the reason I came up with this was because in the 60s, what was really hot and cool then were the movies. Superfly, the big hats and the fur collars, but I put in the Chicano Day of the Dead, which is not about death, it's about life. That's why I put a big smile on him. And then the image of the zigzag man with a three-quarter view. So I took all those pop icons, and eventually this is what the image that came out. Within a few years of that, the gangs picked it up, and then now it's 35 years plus later, and there's over 1,000 men in prison, the avenues, the Mexican mafia, who have this tattooed on their bodies. The sides of their necks, full stomachs, down their legs, or full back. They feel if you get shot in a gang war, if you have this symbol, Señor Suerte, Mr. Lucky, that you won't die. So that is part of their heritage now.
You know, the way that the city is designed, it's just very big and sprawling and spread out over a large area. You could do a shitload of graffiti, but nobody really ever see it. In LA, people don't really walk anywhere. You know, they drive their car to a little, you know, neighborhood, walk around a couple blocks, get back in the car and drive to the next place. It's more about doing big booming spots that when you ride in your car, the shit is gonna catch your eye and make an impact on you.
The people that graffiti, that think they have the right to put their name anywhere they choose, that's basically anarchy. I'll do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, because I just feel like it, and the heck with you. They have no rules. They even resent being told that there are rules. They're waging a war against that part of our society which is civilized. I'm a struggling guy, working very hard to keep my butt off the street. And I don't like coming home after a 14, 16-hour day and seeing somebody's gang initials carved on the window of my car, which somebody did. So when somebody calls graffiti writers artists, I don't know what they're talking about. To me, they're criminals.
Many individuals feel that it's part of their rite of passage, it is their way of expressing themselves, it's part of their cultural historical value in a sense, which is all basically hogwash. It is a multi-billion-dollar problem that's vandalizing private businesses and government agencies and private homes.
There's no programs at the time that I was doing artwork. There was no Boys and Girls Club to go to that I could get art lessons at. Art lessons and all the art programs were taken out of my high school. You got all these kids that are out there tagging the walls, and the city's like, just wants them to stop. It doesn't work that way.
I don't know what graffiti's about. It's a mystery. Every so often you'll come in the morning and find that graffiti's happened to the front window.
It's amazing how fast a neighborhood can go from a working class neighborhood that has values and ethics, how fast it can become a slum if people don't fight against the graffiti. If you leave it up, it's a sign of surrender, and it spreads from one side of the street to the other. It's their way of telling the residents of the community, you don't own this block, we do.
You never know when you're going to need spray paint. So we're just going to go to this alley. See, now these two guys are not getting along. See, they've lined each other. Now there's a third person to join the group. See, here's the kid who's just getting in. He's in a gang, though. 3X means he's a gang. These are all taggers. Ton and POF. Ton has been around a long time. POF is just coming on the scene. Like an old Indian tracker, if you put me in any city in America, I can find that piece of graffiti and I can track you back to that person's house. See, here's an arrow down. This is going to become a meeting spot for people out here.
Because graffiti involves the ego and adventure and excitement and personalization and social networking, graffiti writers really get addicted to doing graffiti. Well, because graffiti has all that, people who hate graffiti get addicted to all that. There's the ego, there's the fame, there's the how much can we stop, who can we get. It's really an obsession with each other because the obsession with graffiti.
Some of the things that in Los Angeles I'm noted for are my community activism in regard to just getting rid of vandalism.
See, look, graffiti, garbage, and a sofa. Every time you see graffiti, you're gonna find garbage and other stuff, even if it's a really good neighborhood. Why are there finger marks at almost every joint? Why do you think that is? Do you even think about something like that? Oh yeah, I do. I think someone's trying to break into this garage. They're trying to see through here. That's why these finger marks are here. See, they're trying to go in like this. So what I'll do is I'll go over to these people and I'll say, I think someone's trying to break into your door. What they do is they'll put a camera up here or something. Now, that's how you stop crime. Anytime you see gang graffiti on top of tagger graffiti, that's a bad sign.
A lot of gangsters in this city, they'll shoot you on sight just for riding in their neighborhood. They call like a green light on the whole city on graffiti writers. You know, they see you like creeping down the street with a backpack on your back, and they're gonna roll up on you, hit you up, and ask you if you're a writer. If you say a writer, in some neighborhoods, they'll fucking smoke you right there in the spot.
The only obvious answer to me was I figured out was I control an area that has almost no graffiti in it. Once the gangs see that no one's disrespecting their area with graffiti, you can then ask them to stop putting their gang graffiti up, and they will. You now have totally eliminated the violent nature of graffiti from happening. And I'm not out at night with a bat and a flashlight and driving a tank. I just let the kids do whatever they want. Wake up in the morning, stuff is gone.
Do you remember when our video store and a bunch of other buildings on the block got all messed up? You know, vandalized.
Oh, yeah! Well, there was spray paint and marker all over the building's walls, and there were trash cans tipped over. It made me really mad.
The only way we're going to eradicate graffiti is through an education program. Nestle's, Blockbusters, Little Caesars Pizza, the kids are getting rewards. So we're kind of using the concept of branding. So a child goes into a store with his parent and says, oh, there's a Nestle candy bar, Mom. Remember when the graffiti people did that? It constantly sends them the message. So we're doing it as a marketing campaign.
People from negative stimuli cultures that do not understand the positives, if provided with a sufficient negative stimulus, will stop their negative behavior.
I think one good film might really be televised, and that would end it.
Oscar demanding a dethumbing on TV, and he's targeting teen taggers.
LA, the city in total fucking decay, is hideous. You know, it's different shades of beige and gray, and it looks like shit. What's wrong with decorating that space or using that space to express yourself?
Never before in history did young people have the ability to really change their surroundings and what they had to look at every day. If you ask the average person what's at the corner of Fountain and Sunset, they'll probably tell you, well, there's a Tang's Donuts, there's a flower shop, a McDonald's. Where a graffiti writer will respond in an entirely different way. They won't see the Tang's Donut actively. They know it's there, but they'll probably see the newspaper stands that are landmarks. You catch a tag on that, it's going to stay forever. Just by looking at the space in a different way, the textures become more alive. It's not just signage and places of consumption. It really is a place to interact with, a place to touch. The back of the freeway sign is ignored, it's alienating, it doesn't exist. But graffiti writers, using this alternate vision of the city, were able to see the back of the sign, climb up there, and interact with it by putting up their graffiti. You're hitting a heaven when you hit the back of a freeway sign.
It does not look like the nighttime is covered. It's almost graffiti time. A National Guardsman on every other block, starting at sundown, would at least have some effect on the problem.
I got a thing on my mind. Sure enough, gonna find it. I got a thing on my mind. Sure enough, gonna find it. Don't let nobody tell me my thing, it won't come true. 'Cause I ain't lying down till I get my dues. I got a thing on my mind. I'm sure enough gonna find it.
I'm Shepard Fairey.
I am a graphic designer, street artist. I have a clothing line, a magazine, run a gallery. All those worlds colliding, that's what I try to do.
Lord knows that I've tried. I got what I got, 'cause better folks have done.
The Andre the Giant Has a Posse sticker started as a fluke. The night it was created, a friend of mine was staying over at my house. He said, well, teach me how to make stencils. And I looked through the newspaper, and there was an ad for wrestling at the Civic Center, and the image was Andre the Giant. And I said, oh, why don't you just cut this? He's like, no way, that's stupid, I'm not cutting that. And immediately that triggered something in me where it was like a reaction to how cool all my skateboarder clique friends thought they were. My reaction was, man, Team Shed is over. Andre's Posse is the new shit. I mean, if you look at this thing, it's totally crude. It's like a 10-minute design, but at the same time, just the balance of black to white, the image, the formula, the handwriting, there's sort of a charm to it, and I completely lucked out with that. You know, if someone were to say, come up with an icon that you're gonna perpetuate for the next 15 years, definitely wouldn't have been that. But the more I put it out there, the more of a reaction it got. And the whole idea of utilizing this sort of trend psychology of no one wants to be the last one in on something, and something gains real power from perceived power, I definitely was fascinated with that and became addicted quickly to seeing the results. I felt like the face had a lot of resonance already, and that I should continue with the branding of the image and just transition it into something that had more of an Orwellian connotation. So that's when I simplified the face to what I call the icon face. Obey specifically was from John Carpenter's They Live. Rowdy Roddy Piper, who, coincidental wrestler connection, is the protagonist. Rowdy puts on the sunglasses and the world goes from color to black and white, and every advertisement, instead of saying vacation in Tahiti, says consume, sleep, watch television, obey.
You walk down the street and everywhere you look, you're getting people putting messages in your face.
The city's giving you all this stimulus, advertising, all this stuff screams at you all day.
Clear Channel, with their big advertisements all over the place, they have the money to do it and they do it.
Que eso es contaminación visual y como ya lo tenemos tan adquirido en nuestro subconsciente, no nos damos cuenta.
I'm walking down the street and then you see this big advertising, beautiful, beautiful woman. It's like I'm getting raped. There's a chemical reaction happening in my body. And this is a waste of energy somehow, because sometimes it takes me half a day to get this picture out of my mind. This is something I'm not asking for.
Lo nuestro es lo mejor y serás el más guapo y tendrás la mejor chica, ¿no? Entonces eso para mí es mucho más, digamos, molesto o agresivo que ver un tag.
You know, like with television, there was kind of like a deal. It's like, you have television in your house, you can turn it off anytime you want. We'll give you this content, and in exchange, you watch some of our advertising. But there was never a deal struck with billboards. They're almost like visual litter, and the public doesn't get anything back from it. You know, so if I give some that are actually entertainment or content oriented, then it makes a better dynamic. The reason I started doing billboards in the first place was because I came to New York, I saw the trains, but I was stuck down in Texas, and we didn't have subway trains in Texas, but what we did have was millions of billboards. About every 2 years, you know, I tried to do it legit. I was in Toronto. I tried to do a billboard there that said, support divorce, the great heterosexual institution, kind of dealing with the gay marriage issue. They said, for no amount of money, are you going to be able to put that message on one of our billboards? If you don't fit inside their political agenda, then you're not going to be able to run with their billboards.
Since the late 1980s or 1990s, advertisers have employed graffiti tactics in getting their message out.
It's important to kind of realize that you know, the early writers in New York were, as self-marketeers, were kind of massively ahead of their time. If you look, for example, at the idea of using mass transit to self-market yourself, you know, I mean, they were incredibly visionary, you know, I mean, scarily so in a way.
Advertisers, as you know, are always trying to catch the street. Graffiti is the visual representation of that, so now they're like, well, how can we tap into that?
these grossly irresponsible corporations who decide they want to try to look cool and gain some kind of street credibility, I guess, by promoting crime.
So much graffiti is in popular imagery as far as merchandising and video games and movie posters.
Toys, muñequitos, no sé.
I have a high-end clothing line, handmade custom stuff emblazoned with my cloth. I also am doing t-shirts for people that can't afford that, making sunglasses and jewelry, sheets and home accessories.
A gente precisa comer, precisa, entendeu? Precisa viver, então não quer ficar trabalhando em banco, em escritório, nada disso. É nada melhor que você poder usar a sua arte para poder fazer um trabalho legal, né? Com todas as marcas que a gente já trabalhou, todas as empresas, a gente é bem assim, não, isso a gente não vai fazer, isso aqui, se a gente tiver que fazer, vai ter que ser assim.
There's a new segment of the young population who are doing graffiti because they see the advancement possible in graffiti.
So much of the kind of surrounding culture is like, gotta get paid, gotta get paid.
I want to get some shoes out, be in a couple graffiti movies, television shows, probably a radio station. I want to get as far as I can in graffiti, you know. I want to be able to make money off of graffiti, you know.
The second money is involved, that's great. You're part of a system where money is now a reward for what you're doing. That's what you do. But on the graffiti side of it, I don't respect you for graffiti. I respect you for being an efficient entrepreneur. Good job. I do not respect you for being a good graffiti writer because you're no longer a graffiti writer.
The real bomber is just like me. Don't give a shit about none of this video shit. Don't give a shit about none of this magazine shit. You just want to get up for you, and you're the king, my nigga. You're the king or queen. The real motherfucker out there putting in work. They don't give a shit about nobody else but just getting up.
Is street art getting too mainstream? The aesthetics that you associate with street art might be getting mainstream, but street art isn't getting mainstream. There are very few people that are actually out there doing street art, taking the risk, getting arrested, getting fined, having their shit covered by other street artists, vigilante citizens. It takes people with a lot of dedication and persistence.
Most artists don't risk their life, you know, dangling from an 8-inch ledge, you know, 6 stories up above the freeway with semis going underneath their feet just to do their painting. Most artists don't sit there doing a painting, get shot in the fucking back of the head for it. It's a full contact sport. It's a lifestyle.
It's like worse than the worst drug you can imagine, you know. It's like there's no rehab that's gonna cure you from this. Vício, vicia. Na real, quando você ouve falar é vício, mas é mesmo. O negócio é louco. Não é pra qualquer mesmo.
The people who are buying some Levi blue jeans with a graffiti ad or a t-shirt with a graffiti logo are not aware of what's happening at the street level with this culture. That people are living and dying to do this, with the emphasis on dying, as in getting killed doing graffiti.
Stem 1, his legs were amputated. He fell on the train tracks between the cars, and both legs were severed. He got killed. The next guy that died was a guy named Solid. His brother was Bot, 707, very close friend of mine. What happened was he fell between the cars when the train was leaving the train station, and he landed between the train and the platform, and the train actually spun him like this and broke every rib in his chest. And you got used to going to funerals, and it was sad, but it was like, what are you gonna do?
Space is a commodity. We live in a capitalistic society, therefore people with the greatest access to funds get the most amount of space.
There's a lot of things I see that I think are offensive that are in my streets. A lot of big, ugly, cheap buildings are being built and they dominate the skyline. And to me, you know, I'm walking around the city feeling like this fucking sucks. I can't see the sun, but what I do see is an ugly, you know, building.
Não achar que o pichador é que é o problema. Não, a cidade é feia por causa dos pichadores. A construtora do prédio de alto padrão desrespeita ao espaço público.
Do they go out and make a list and ask the people pass by, like, what color you want this building to be? No, the guy buys the building, it's his building, now he can put in your face whatever he wants to.
I just see it like, no one asked for my graffiti and no one asked for your damn wall.
The human body or the eyes is not there to look only at straight lines. When you look at nature, there are no straight lines, only architecture, only street. That makes you sick.
There is a vacuum that city creates.
a spiritual vacuum, social. But the thing about graffiti is that you decide to fill this vacuum with beauty.
Acho que é uma questão que todas as cidades do mundo têm que discutir ou estão discutindo de quem é o espaço público.
If I were to come to your house and tag on the outside of your house, would you come out and look at it and be like, oh, it's art? You know, I really appreciate the fact that this person decided to redecorate the facade of my building. You know, then again, you know, I'm 38 years old. If you would have asked me the same question when I was 16, I'm sure I would have had a different answer.
I'll never write on people's homes, you know, never write in churches, schools. You know, it's just unnecessary. Why piss off people? Why attack people's personal space? I don't want anybody attacking my personal space. I don't even want people coming and knocking on my door. I sure as hell don't want them writing on my fucking house.
I just think it looks, can I swear? It looks a shithole.
Well, you can't have a democracy without public space. There's no point in having a voice or having a concept or an idea if you can't disseminate it.
Are we supposed to only go to art school and only hang our artwork in this designated spot? If there is no rebellion in our society, we would be stagnant. The basis of this country in America, from what I was told, was, you know, rebellion. You just have to put your foot down and say no more of that. We're going to take matters into our own hands now, and we're going to paint wherever we please.
It's like another life, you know? Being almost like a superhero, you know? Creeping out on the streets at nighttime when everybody's sleeping, warm in their bed.
It's so important to all the young kids. They can relate to it. They can go down the subway, there's a tag, there's something on the bus, there's something here. It's living. It's communicating to you right now.
Right on public property. That's what we should be writing on, the highways, the buses, the trains. Public, whatever is paid for by taxes, bomb them shits, hit them up.
Outside the box, I'm inside the circle of fate. Down is up, the elevator stop, the cable pop. I made a dookie rope like what? I can't bow down or toss the crowns. The fight? Nah, I only lost the round. Of course I found my source of sound is precious. Up and down like blood pressure. Who can't shoot me? You can't stop me. I am props peak soon as cops creep. Why all of the hate? Cause love is key. What up, creative? Creativity. What can't be done is what I'm doing. Even in still life, I'm still moving.
Cause I get down like that. Cause I get down like that. Better watch your ass when I come around your way. If you kick me down, I still rise up. Lord knows I'm gonna find my way. Cause I get down like that. Cause I get down like that. Better watch your ass when I come around your way. If you kick me down, I still rise up. Lord knows I'm gonna find my way.
Rebound. What was hidden before, I see now. Mistakes are perfect. I create the richest, worthless version of purpose on the earth's surface. Even with bad circuits, the tip. I love the top, the bottom's bliss. I'm gonna find my way. I'm what goes around. I'll be back someday. Keep on pushing and pull my weight. Cause we all looking beyond gaze. At the pace that's piece of the present state. The parallax is the place where the demons play. Peons praise, pinned in glory. Till it's my time, I'll wait eons for me. To show love is a blessing. To begrudge is to die by your own way. Step it.
Cause I get down like that. Cause I get down like that. Better watch your ass when I come around your way. If you kick me down, like that.